Welcome back to the Jocelyn Benson podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the different candidates for governor of Michigan in 2026. I'm sure you know that Gretchen Whitmer is term limited. Her terms are up, so that means we will for sure have a new governor this upcoming year. So we need to all do our due diligence as citizens and voters and look into who is running for governor, and we need to vote accordingly. You cannot wait until October to start paying attention, so good job getting started early. And you're probably well aware that Michigan tends to flip back and forth, so we can't be too confident that a Democrat or a Republican is going to win. We also have a major independent candidate this year, so it's anybody's game really. So today I will be giving a general overview of some of the major candidates this year. Just a disclaimer, this video was not sponsored, this video was not an endorsement, and at no point in time will I tell you who to vote for. I'm going to give you an objective analysis out of each candidate, but I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I'm going to tell you what they stand for, what they're promising. And even in future episodes, I will never endorse a candidate. Even if I know who I'm going to vote for, I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to vote for, and I'm not going to sway you to vote for a certain person. And right now, I am undecided. My vote is anyone's game as well. And while this podcast is being uploaded in March, all this information is as of February of 2026, so things may change over time. And in the future, I'm going to be doing more in-depth videos about specific aspects of each person's campaign and what they stand for and certain policies and all that stuff. And all the information will be up to date, but things can change. But all this is as of February. Like I said, Gretchen Whitmer is term limited, so she will for sure be out of here. So that means a new person is going to have influence over the budget, agencies, appointment, and a new person is going to be the director of our state. And this will also affect our daily lives, the schools, the roads, the economies, public safety, healthcare. This is going to affect us in a lot of different ways. It may not be really evident right when the person's elected, but over time there will be a lot of changes coming, especially if we elect somebody of a different party. The midterms elections are really important this year. You know, there's a lot of political hostility. The political climate is very active right now. So this is not the year for people to not be into politics. I'm not into politics. This is not the year for that. This is the year to learn, to educate ourselves, and do our due diligence as citizens. Just tell people it is important to be informed. As a citizen of the United States, as a citizen of Michigan, we need to be informed because our votes matter, because we live in a democracy. Some would argue that our votes don't actually matter, but I think our votes matter. But let's just stick to what actually matters though. And that is who is running for governor of our state. So for the Democrats, we have Jocelyn Benson. Benson is the current Secretary of State in Michigan. The other Democratic candidate is Chris Swanson, who is the Genesee County Sheriff. For the Republicans, we have the notorious John James, who is a current U.S. representative. Another Republican is Aric Nesbitt, who is a current state senator. Another Republican is Mike Cox, the former Attorney General, as well as former House Speaker Tom Leonard and Michigan businessman Perry Johnson. And we're all well aware of the independent candidate Mike Duggan, the former mayor of Detroit. Now, there are more people running for governor, but these are kind of the big names in the race. The other people that are running don't stand a great chance. It's not impossible, but they are not highly recognized. We're going to begin our discussion by talking about the Democratic candidates, starting with Jocelyn Benson. Benson's about business. She says that she's going to get stuff done and actually be an efficient governor, which you would think would be a bare minimum promise, but her campaign has three main points: make Michigan more affordable, get Michigan schools into the top 10, and make the government work better for people. Benson is very known throughout Michigan because she is the Secretary of State, which gives her an actual good chance at becoming the next governor. She actually has a fair shot. There's some people on this list that I think is kind of unrealistic. They're more just taking votes away from other people so they can sway the election because they will take votes that another person would have otherwise got. They don't actually have a real chance of winning. There's more getting in the way. Jocelyn is not one of those candidates. She might actually win this race. But we know politicians like to make these type of promises, so we need to actually look into what does Jocelyn mean by what she's saying. What does Jocelyn Benson mean when she says that she wants to make Michigan more affordable? Is she talking about take-home pay, taxes, housing, healthcare, childcare? I mean, there's plenty of different ways that Michigan become more affordable. What does she mean by more affordable? Listen, we want specifics from these candidates, and we need to tell them that. We've had enough empty promises from politicians. We want candidates to come out and be specific and explicit about what they mean when they make these promises. This is not me trying to scrutinize Jocelyn Benson. I don't have any problem with her. I just want to know, what does she mean when she says she's going to do these things, and how does she even plan to get these things done? As well as her objective to get Michigan public schools into the top 10. Top 10 what? Top 10 test scores? Top 10 graduation rates? Top 10 most funded, which obviously will end up benefiting the schools. Now, we can make deductions from her general statement, but to sway a voter like myself who's undecided, she needs to be a little bit more specific on the what and how when she says these things. Once again, this is not personal to Jocelyn. This is for everybody. Politicians just have this tendency to speak these pretty words and aspirations, but then when they actually get elected, there's no execution. Now let's talk about Chris Swanson, the Genesee County Sheriff. He's a Democrat as well as Benson is, but he's a different style of Democrat. His campaign is also built around different objectives. One of his objectives is economic growth in Michigan through better wages and more jobs. He also wants to improve and strengthen Lansing, our state capital. And as a county sheriff, it should come to no surprise that he also wants safer communities. Swanson has a strong concern for the working class, and he wants to ensure economic stability and security, as well as community safety and improving the people's trust in the government. And I like what both of these candidates are saying, but talk is cheap. I like that Chris Swanson says that as governor of Michigan, he wants to make communities safer, but how does he plan to go about doing that? Does he want to increase police patrol and law enforcement? Does he want infrastructure modifications that decrease crime? Or does he lean towards proactive measures and youth interventions that will prevent future crime? Every single American wants safer communities. All of us do. The disconnect is, how do we go about actually making communities safer? I think ICE is a good example of this. Most Americans, Democrat or Republican, don't want fully open borders, nor do any of us want an illegal immigration crisis. Nor do we want a Nazi-styled sweep that's going to harm Americans. We all have the same goal, but we differ on execution. And don't take that as a strong stance on what's going on about ICE right now. I'm not saying that ICE are Nazis. I'm just saying that we don't want Nazis. Anyways, let's talk about the Republicans now, because we have quite a few of them. We're going to start with John James, the current U.S. representative. John James is currently stating that his priorities is trade and manufacturing, energy and environment, and defending freedom, which is quite ambiguous. He has a strong focus on the economic growth within Michigan. And honestly, John James catches my attention a lot. I'm looking forward to doing more research on him and what he's trying to promise as governor. But I am curious as to what he means by defending freedom. But I'm going to do future podcasts talking specifically about John James and specifically about every single candidate there is. This episode is a general overview, so you can just have an idea and become familiar with the names. Now we're going to talk about Republican Aric Nesbitt. He's a strong Republican. He is a strong GOP, a strong Republican, and he has shared that his objectives are cutting taxes, backing law enforcement, and eliminating DEI from schools. Aric believes that Michigan is being held back by costs, bureaucracy, and educational insufficiencies. As you can see, he is anti-bureaucracy and he wants to improve the cost of living within Michigan. I might be saying this word wrong, but if you don't know, bureaucracy is the people who make government decisions actually happen. Like when one of the politicians say, hey, we're going to fix roads, the bureaucracy is the department and the workers that actually make this happen. They plan the projects, they hire the crews, and they fix the streets, they fix the roads. If you're someone new to politics, you may be wondering, well, why would someone be anti-bureaucracy? That sounds like a necessity, doesn't it? The main reason why a candidate would be anti-bureaucracy is because they believe it is too slow, too inefficient, or they believe it is too powerful. They tend to think that it is too many steps, too many rules, and just overall a poorly designed process. Others believe that bureaucracy is a necessity because you need experts to run these government programs and to initiate the processes. But there's your little overview on bureaucracy. Now let's talk about Republican Mike Cox, the former Attorney General. Mike Cox positions himself as a candidate who is tough on crime and anti-woke bureaucracy. He has shown that he has a focus on reducing taxes and strengthening communities. He is also concerned with educational freedom such as school choice policies. There is also Republican Tom Leonard, who is a former House Speaker who is focused on lowering taxes, regulatory reform, and what he calls freedom to work policies. He believes that the state of Michigan is losing people and it is losing opportunities, and he wants to encourage growth within the state of Michigan. Now, I said that he's focused on regulatory reform. What is regulatory reform? Regulatory reform is when leaders look at old government rules and decide which ones should be cut, simplified, and improved. I mean, we can just break down the word. We have regulatory, which is regulations, which is rules that the government has to follow. Then we have reform, which is changing or updating it. Now, let's say a government rule means that a small business has to get 10 different permits in order to open. Some politicians will want a regulatory reform so that way the business will only need 3 permits to open, so that way the business can get opened faster, which will help the economy. Regulatory reform is what Tom Leonard is looking to do. Now, our final Republican is businessman Perry Johnson, who ran for governor in 2022. He also believes that the Michigan government is inefficient and needs reform. One thing that Perry Johnson wants to do as governor is to phase out state income tax. He wants to do this in order to create economic growth. I didn't find much other information on him besides that he wants more tax and government efficiency, but I don't know how he plans to make the government more efficient. I would like to know. As more information comes out, I will be doing future episodes and maybe we'll know down the road what is his plan exactly. Now, the final candidate we're going to be talking about is our independent candidate, Mike Duggan. Mike Duggan is the former mayor of Detroit and the only independent candidate in this race. Now, Mike actually stands a good chance in this race, and he will give the partisan candidates a run for their money for sure, and he will definitely receive a lot of votes from moderate Democrats, voters that hate both parties, neutral, uneducated voters, and maybe even business-minded Republicans. As of right now, I don't even know who I'm going to vote for. I'm going to look more into each candidate over time, but I could see myself possibly voting for an independent candidate. Duggan positions himself as a practical problem solver and is putting an emphasis on strengthening Michigan's education. And having a major independent candidate can really affect his race, because even if Mike doesn't win, he could take enough votes from another candidate that it could cause that candidate to lose. They may have won if he wasn't taking all their votes. So yeah, Mike Duggan is going to be a problem no matter what. Now, I've given you a general overview of each candidate, and in future episodes, I'm going to do deep dives on each individual candidate and compare them amongst each other. Next week, I think I'm doing, actually, I'm not even going to say anything. Just stick around for next week, but we're we're doing a deep dive next week. But now let's talk about voting. Before you form an opinion on each candidate, you should ask yourself a few questions. And keep in mind, you need to do a lot more research than just this episode, because this was a very, very narrow, shallow explanation of each candidate, a general overview, because I didn't want this podcast to be like super long. But ask these questions. What is the candidate's top 3 priorities? What will they do and what can they do when they become governor? What are the odds of their promises actually being fulfilled? Because keep in mind, everything that they want to pass and accomplish has to go through the legislator. As far as budget goes, what do they plan on cutting and what do they plan on funding and why? And who is backing them and endorsing them and what do they want? If you want to be really nitty gritty, you can look at who's sponsoring them. Where's that funding coming from? There may be a conflict of interest. But that is it for this episode. I gave you a general overview, and stay tuned for if you want deep dives and more detailed explanations of each candidate, their stances on specific issues, and what they plan to do as governor of Michigan. Thank you for watching.